All right, man. Welcome back to another pregame episode of GB and QC. I'm GB, and that's QC. This is
So
our weekly pregame show, and we're going to deliver that on both channels. Make sure you go and subscribe to his channel. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. So when this comes out, you get both channels. You'll be able to see part 1 and part 2. And we'll be dropping this coming up. So there's a lot of stuff going on with the Browns. We've been in our last episode. We talked a little bit about Baker Mayfield being hurt. Case Keenum is in that role right now. I wanted to go and talk about a little something. You know, it's not the halfway point, but I think it's a good point in the season to kind of evaluate some of the guys that we got in free agency. We can do a little, report card on some of the new guys that have made their mark on the team or lack thereof, and some of the guys that Andrew Berry brought in. And then we can even talk about a couple people who are on one-year deals. Who would you pass or keep them around? For me, my biggest surprise was Malik McDowell, right? We talked about Billings and all these other guys, right? We talked about a bunch of other dudes who potentially had an eligible, were going to come in and make big-time plays on that defensive line. And then Malik McDowell just shows up the first Kansas City game. He's like, hold on, big fella's in here.
Yeah, I think Malik McDowell has been great. I think he's only probably second as a newcomer to like JOK, right?
Yeah,
because I think the impact that JOK has been underrated and quite frankly phenomenal for what a rookie linebacker is asked to do. I mean, they're still wondering about Patrick Queen and Devin Bush in Pittsburgh and Baltimore, right? They're still waiting for those guys to take the steps that JOK has made in his first like 8 games with the Cleveland Browns. So ultimately, you have to put JOK number 1. But Malik McDowell, man, look, this is let's keep it real. This is a dude who was not supposed to make the team, man. Like, he was deep on the depth chart, 6th person on the depth chart, comes in as a flyer during rookie camp. You know what I mean? Rookie camp. Like, he wasn't even on the regular camp flyer roster. He was on the rookie camp flyer roster, maintains a way to stay on the team, continues to work hard in training camp. He was starting by week 1. Like, this is a dude who you might want to pay some money to keep him around for a little bit because he has some length, he has some youth, he has a lot of explosive tool set, and he was a former 2nd-round pick. So, you know, Malik McDowell, it is great to see a flyer like that work out. And Malik McDowell, certainly a flyer that, you know, worked out tremendously for the Cleveland Browns.
Let's stay on that defensive front. I think that a guy like Takk McKinley is a guy who I think we were waiting to see that level of production or that level of excitement like we saw from Malik McDowell. So you didn't get to see that because Takk was gone due to family issues and some personal stuff. However, he has some decent production. I think he has 3 sacks this year, 3 sacks this year and some spot duty. I think he's more of a pass rush specialist. And I think we kind of see that we missed Jadeveon Clowney's ability to wreck plays on the run game when he was out and he missed the game.
I think with Takk, I think we're getting exactly what we expected out of Takk McKinley at this point. Some production. I think maybe the number for sacks for Takk, you probably were going to think like, hey, if he gets 8, that's a really good number for Takk McKinley,
right?
Especially coming off the bench behind Clowney. Clowney's another dude we can talk about who has been tremendous. And, you know, I think right now with Takk, what you want out of him is get the hustle sack, get the motor sack, get the sack that, you know, maybe it's Clowney's or it's Myles's with the pressure, but you can clean up on it. I think that's what he's done. Is he a guy you want to start? No. And I think another interesting question just kind of popped into my mind, and this is like just for the audience to think about later, is when we think about Myles Garrett, right? Was it more deflating when the Browns lost Myles Garrett for the rest of the year in 2019 than it would be if the Browns lost Baker Mayfield for a large portion of the season? Like, that's a good question to ask, right? Because they're both key pivotal star players on this team. But, you know,
put that down in the comment section, and I'll go ahead and comment on that right now, man. I'll go ahead and comment on that immediately right now. Myles Garrett, when you lose him for the whole season, it's different because now you can't get the Browns can't really stop people like they're supposed to right now. But if without Myles Garrett, can you imagine the length of drives and people just
You lose
now they're gonna be running the
hope,
ball too,
right? Because at least with Myles, you got hope that
Yeah,
something can happen. But if Myles ain't out there, you don't really have hope. And also the depth gets atrocious.
yeah.
So, and also like we know that Baker's a good quarterback, and nobody is debating that. Well, for the most part, nobody's debating that. Some people are, but
Yeah.
for the most part, most people have a realization that Baker's pretty good at quarterback. He's not the best quarterback. He's not an
Right.
MVP candidate, but he's pretty good. With Myles, though, Myles could be the best defensive player in football, and losing a dude who's the best at his position, especially an important position like edge rusher, I
Mhm.
think would feel a little bit more deflating than a guy like Baker, who I think you can survive for a few weeks if he's not in there, versus a guy like Myles, where if Myles ain't in there, that just means a whole different thing to that defensive unit, to where it's like the psyche, everything's built around him. He really does carry a load on that defense. Who gets double team? Who gets triple team? I mean, it's better now with Clowney. And look, that's the benefit of having a good roster, is
Mhm.
that if somebody goes down, you don't have a absence of star players on this team. Regardless of how many guys are injured, you still got stars all over the place. So that's the good news. It's just something interesting to ponder, because we have been there with Myles Garrett, where Myles is out for the year
Yeah.
and we are down. But Baker's still there, and we still down on the season. So it's just an interesting kind of question to ask ourselves.
And here's and I asked you this question now that we're going kind of in that way. Case Keenum, right? Case Keenum is playing, and he's going to play this week. Even with Case Keenum, there's a funny thing that happens with the Cleveland Browns, right? And it kind of happened with Baker. No one ever expected Baker to be the driver of the car. Like, the car was built, the car was the running game, the car were the pieces and parts around it, and the machine, that some of the parts of the machine made the team very formidable, and probably a not top 3 roster in the league. So you didn't really worry about, like, hey, if one person goes down. I was telling this the other day. Think about it. You lost 2 tackles. You still got one of the best centers and 2 guards in the league. Hey, you lost, at the time, you lost Kareem Hunt, or excuse me, Nick Chubb. You still had Kareem Hunt, one of the best running backs. You lose Jarvis Landry. You still got one of the best receivers in Odell Beckham Jr. The thought process is this team so good that as you start to get people back, if you can get this win, and you got 10 days to kind of heal up a little bit, all of a sudden you look like you get Chubb back. If Jarvis doesn't play this week, you get Jarvis back. All of a sudden, now you might get one of the tackles back. Conklin might come back. Could you see where some people may say, but I think the Browns can still make the playoffs with Case Keenum if Baker does not come back, or unfortunately isn't there for the season? Is the roster around him at 100% good enough for the Browns to make the playoffs?
Well, we talked about this kind of off screen, right? And with all the rumors going on with Baker Mayfield, what surgery, or if he's getting surgery, or whatever is going on with him, right? There is an interesting line of thought here. For me personally, I think it's very hard to make the playoffs in the AFC with Case Keenum. But vice versa. Let's say theoretically Baker's out 4 to 6 weeks. With shoulder surgery or something along those lines, right? And that's why they're choosing to shut him down before the mini bye, if that's what they're doing, right?
Allegedly.
Because if that is what they're doing, right? Because we don't know why he's not playing. Because if they felt like this is like a weird situation where like Baker thinks he can play, but the team doesn't, so the team wants him to do something, but we don't really know the specific details in this. There might be multiple reasons. One of these reasons might be because, hey, they feel like you can get the surgery now, come back in a number of weeks, and before you hit that tough stretch at the end of the season, you can have him back. That might be part of it, right? As a competitor, Baker doesn't want to miss any games. He doesn't feel like he has to miss any games. He feels like he pushed the surgery off to the end of the year. To me, if it's him out for the rest of the year, it makes how they're handling it weird to me. But I think it's more likely that it's probably going to be he's going to be out for a portion of the year. Now, let's look at the schedule real quick, right? If he's out missing a portion of the year, let's say you get these 10 days with Denver, you get Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, New England, Detroit, and Baltimore before you get your bye week. That's about 6-7 weeks. Say Baker's recovery time's 4 to 6. Let's give him 6 to 7. Realistically, you can have him back in a realistic timetable with what that surgery is, which is a labrum surgery. Again, we don't know which surgery. It might be a different surgery altogether, right? It might be it might be a 3 to 4 week surgery. It might be no surgery. It might be another injury that's keeping him out of this game. We have no idea what's keeping him out of this game at this point. I want to stress that. But the timetables do matter because Denver is a beatable team. You're playing Pittsburgh at home. That's a beatable team. You're playing Cincinnati and Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati's no joke this year.
Yeah,
you're a good team. That's going to be an uphill battle. New England, you should be able to beat them. Detroit, I don't care where that game is, but it's at home. You should be able to beat Detroit. And then you have at Baltimore, right? So if you get out that stretch and if you get out this next stretch of 6 games, 4-2, you're going to be 7-5, coming off a bye, and you're going to be able to do something. You're going to have an opportunity to play for your season with your starting quarterback if he can come back by the bye. That is worst case scenario. Browns can still make the playoffs if that happens. If it's Baker out for the year, I don't know if you beat Baltimore. I don't know where the team holds up mentally and everything else there to make the playoffs, right? Because you're then talking about probably an 8-8, well, not an 8-8, a 9-8 football team at that point. I don't know if 9-8 makes the playoffs in the AFC. But if we're just talking about him being out for a little while, and that's why they're choosing to do this now and sit him now. Okay. And again, it could be 1 week. It could just be this game with Baker Mayfield. It can just be the next few games. We have no idea what the timetable is with him. And that's why everything's in shambles right now. We'll find out more probably like in the weekend area. That's usually when teams are releasing this information. But, the second opinion thing, that all sounds like surgery. Surgery, hey, it could be a 3-week surgery. It could be a year-out surgery. It could be a 6 to 8. It could be a 4 to 6. It is very, very random with these timetables. I mean, we thought Carson Wentz was going to be out for the year, and then he played week 1. So, it's one of those situations.
It's given how people heal, too. It's given how people heal, right? We thought Odell Beckham Jr. was going to play the first game. He took 2 more games past that to get back, and he's a fast guy. He fast tracks everything. So we don't know. We want to just continue to say that so you don't say G. Bush and Quincy was on here talking crazy and they said that Baker was out forever. Like, nah, I'm just saying we just prognosticating on this. Really quickly before we get up out of here, let me ask you this question. We kind of talked about Jadeveon Clowney a little bit earlier. I'm thinking he's playing really well. He did miss the game, but I like the athleticism out there. But I'll tell you this: I think he's gonna get a big payday. I think he's rehabilitated himself to a point where I think he may end up with double-digit sacks this year. I think how many does he have right now? I'm not sure offhand.
He's got 3 right now.
He has 3 right now, but he's been really disruptive. He's been disruptive in the run game. He's been disruptive as a pass rusher. What are your thoughts on Jadeveon Clowney? Do you think the Browns have enough to bring him back, or would you bring him back?
Clowney's market value has always been really difficult to discern because now he's going to be 29 next year in free agency.
Yeah.
So he's going to be on the wrong side of 28 or 26, and that's going to definitely bring the number down. And then it will be 1 year production. I think a lot of teams are going to be like, yeah, you put up 10 sacks, but for the love of God, you played again on the opposite side of Myles Garrett. You know what I mean? And maybe you benefited from that. Now, I think Clowney's just been playing good on his own, to be honest with you, regardless if there was Myles or not. And I think some teams are going to catch on to that. But you have to look at this and how many excuses are GMs going to give him to not give him money. I think ultimately, unfortunately for Clowney, he's probably going to be somewhere between an $8 to $12 million range. I think 12 would be really, really high for him. I think he's probably going to get 8, 7. It's kind of similar to what he's getting right now. So I will see with him just because he's aged out and has so many injuries. So that adds on top of it. So I don't know if anybody's gonna give him a big long-term deal, but he might get another good 1-year deal. Hopefully the Cleveland Browns give him that good.
Make sure you guys check this out. GBQC. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Make sure you subscribe to the Barbershop channel. And